Yo, what's going on, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earth Mac, the man scientist, and welcome back to Turnbuckle Talk. Shout out to my boy, the infamous Alvin. In his absence, he had important business to handle tonight, but you have me, and guess what? We're going to have some things to talk about today on Turnbuckle Talk. Now, you already know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you get notified on all of our content, whether it's live or recorded. Know what to do with that. And also in the links under the description, you got links to our Discord. So if you want to talk more pro wrestling in our Discord, feel free to join our Discord for free 99. That way we can have these long drawn out discussions about pro wrestling, man. Any questions that you have, open up the room for discussion for pro wrestling talk. And we do have other channels within our Discord in regards to TV, movies, anime, comics. Guess what? That's what Orange Phoenix Media Channel is all about. You name it, we nerd it. That is what we do. But today on Turnbuckle Talk, some news just broke, right? Some news broke in the past 24 hours or so. I say just broke, but the past 24 hours in regards to TNA. Like, they made waves over the course because for some reason, me and Alvin were kind of racking our brains as far as what we're going to talk about as far as pro wrestling is concerned. We know WrestleMania season is upon us. We know about John Cena and Cody Rhodes. We know about AEW and what they got going on, what they're dealing with. So everything is kind of like moving sort of like a well-oiled machine in ways until we get this news about TNA when it comes to the most recent firings of Gail Kim among 7 other employees. Definitely going to talk about that, and let's go into it right now. So with this whole Gail Kim situation, now let's talk about TNA in totality. Gail Kim is one of the original TNA knockouts. If you're talking about Gail Kim, you're talking about ODB, you're talking about Awesome Kong, you're talking about the beautiful people, and the list goes on and on and on. And with that TNA knockout division, that they were the best women's roster in pro wrestling, period. When it was just TNA and WWE, like, they were doing stuff better. Like, they was going through tables, they was having ladder matches, they was more hard hitting. Like, they were the women to watch. Like, if you was a woman and you wanted to go get the best competition out there, you don't go to WWE, you go to TNA, to the knockouts division. That is what you do. Now, TNA was in this slow rise. Like slow rise. And it was getting to the point where it was going to be legitimate competition for WWE until Eric Bischoff and Hollywood Hogan showed up, and then they tried to go through the Monday Night Wars again, and that didn't work out too well. And there was a decline when it comes to viewership, a decline as far as the audience is concerned. And also there was a mismanagement of money and contracts and stuff like that. Not even getting the weeds with that. So for a period, TNA went through this little bit of a lull. Then, you got Scott D'Amore, and then Scott D'Amore brings back TNA because it was Impact Wrestling for a good period of time. So now you have TNA Wrestling, and man, the popularity was starting to rise again. It was getting there, to the point where they had partnerships with AEW, and Kenny Omega was the TNA heavyweight champion, or the Impact heavyweight champion, and Kenny Omega was doing AEW, AAA, and TNA. He was going everywhere while injured, by the way. And Scott D'Amore even spoke highly of Kenny Omega, saying, listen, he was there the whole entire time. Like, throughout the tapings, if anybody needs help or anybody needs some advice, he was there for that. So that partnership was very well received. Contrary to the viewers' belief, saying, oh, well, AEW just walking over TNA. That wasn't really the case. Scott D'Amore says it, that TNA and AEW had a very, very good relationship. Now, you fast forward, right? Now, WWE has a partnership with TNA. And as a viewer, and this is just my opinion, I don't have warm and fuzzies about this NXT TNA partnership. Because now Jordan Grace is over at NXT now. Like, I saw that coming. Anybody, James, Ray Charles can see that. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Wonder can see that. You know what I mean? See that happen. But in my mind, I think WWE was like poaching the premier talent from TNA and bringing them over to WWE. Now, before all that even transpired, in the midst of that, Scott D'Amore gets fired. Like one of the best people in pro wrestling gets fired from TNA. You know what I'm saying? In which, honestly, the talent within TNA was honestly upset about that, was in shock by that. And Gail Kim is not the exception to this either. Like, she is another person that sent people in shock. It is an email. But why would you do something like that? According to Mike Johnson, a PW Insider is reporting that several individuals have parted ways with Anthem and TNA Wrestling Today. In a memo sent to Anthem employees, TNA President Carlos Silva announced the exit of 8 staff members from the organization, including Ariel Schinnerer, who served as TNA's executive producer and creative head. Schinnerer had been a longtime employee of Anthem, TNA, and Fight Network. Following his exit, Hunter Delirious Johnston will take over as head of creative, with Tommy Dreamer continuing to contribute to the creative team. Now, also, Johnston noted that tied for most shocking is the departure of TNA Hall of Famer Gail Kim, who worked behind the scenes in talent relations and producing and was a legitimate legend for the promotion. With her exit, Tommy Dreamer will now be heading talent relations and at the end of the company. So my thing is this: when you bring about the firings of Gail Kim, TNA got to be the most unserious pro wrestling company that I have ever come across. Like, anytime there's momentum, there's a momentum shift, there's some type of more positive energy going into TNA, even with the partnership with WWE, NXT, and all that, you take 4 steps forward and take 6 steps back. Like, I don't really understand the logic or the business acumen of Anthem on what they're trying to do. It's almost like they're gearing up to sell TNA, to get TNA off their hands, or left WWE acquire TNA to a certain degree, which is no good for anybody. On the business side of things, like, it's one thing to have 2 wrestling companies that you can actually work for. You can, if you're unhappy here, you can go over here. You're unhappy here, you can go over there. But it's optimal efficiency if there's 3 companies you can work for in the US. And TNA was that 3rd company. Like, no one says you have to work with NXT or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But still yet, though, a 3rd wrestling company. And there's nothing concrete as far as TNA being sold to WWE. It's all speculation, because if you go on X, if you go on Blue Sky, if you go on any of the social media outlets, it is speculated that TNA will be sold at some point. You know what I'm saying? But that's more of a fan speculation, not like legitimate reports. The only legitimate report here is Gail Kim being fired, and that is the most shocking of them all. First of all, she's a TNA Hall of Famer, and she's an all-around good person. You hire Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard. That is who you hire, but yet you're going to fire Gail Kim? You bring Tessa Blanchard over, knowing full well what she said, what she done, whatever the case may be. And when she comes out, you got the crowd chanting, "She's a racist. She's a racist. She's a racist." Like, one thing about wrestling fans is that we will never forget, especially if you say some racist shit. You know what I'm saying? We're never going to forget that. Ask Hulk Hogan. Okay? Like, for some reason, he thought his fame was just going to overshadow the racist rant that he went on in the past, years prior. But no, here are the fans reminding him that, yo, we haven't forgotten, dog. Like, you might have been a legend, but we don't give a damn. Same rule applies for Tessa Blanchard to a lesser degree, because obviously, you know, she's not Hulk Hogan, you know, she hasn't, you know, done any of those things. And still yet, man, like, it boggles the mind on why you would do something so stupid, so idiotic. So we're letting go of Gail Kim. And Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful says, to be clear, these are firings. But what is the legitimate reason for that? What is the legitimate reason? Now, what's next for Gail Kim? What's next for the other 7 employees that lost their jobs? Now, Scott D'Amore has Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which visibly you see there is a working relationship between Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling and AEW, because you see AEW talent on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling shows. Maybe Gail Kim goes over to Scott D'Amore, TNA. Maybe Gail Kim goes over to AEW and asks to be head of talent relations, deal with the women, and work and do some things around behind the scenes. That would be awesome to see. That would be great to see. Now, mind you, AEW's product has gotten consistently better. Like if you look at AEW Collision, like the split, like you had Sunday Collision, you had Saturday Collision, that the viewership was over 560,000 plus, like per show, which is awesome. Which means the product is getting better. That means the viewership is getting larger. That means more and more people are actually watching the product. Now, I haven't checked out Collision over this past weekend because I was out in Detroit hanging out with the missus, my fiance. Shout out to Tna. But like when it comes to Gail Kim, like I don't know what's up with TNA, man. I really do not have faith in TNA. Like you got talent like Moose and Tasha Steelz and all this other talent, like Nick Nemeth. Like Nick Nemeth might even go back to WWE. Again, this is speculation. This is me going on my rant. So let me preface that by saying that. But if I was AEW, the people that got let go from TNA, I would get the best of the best out of that group and hire them. Give Gail Kim a job. You already got a working relationship with Scott D'Amore and Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And honestly and truly, it is what it is at that standpoint. Talent relations? Come on, man. Come on, man. So I feel like the more people that is behind the scenes is working with things like with talent relations and production meetings and stuff like that, the less TK has to worry about. Even though TK is writing some of the stories and the product is getting better and so on and so forth, things are looking really, really good. Going down to a smaller venue and things sound more full now. And again, product is getting better. But Gail Kim, you just can't let somebody like that go, man. Like there's no legitimate reason on letting these individuals go. Like, how you think the talent is gonna feel? Like, to be honest, to be 100% real, Jordan Grace was with TNA when Scott D'Amore got let go. And Jordan Grace was upset. Moose was upset. Like, honestly and truly, like, once the contract is up with TNA, like listen, once these contracts up, they jumping ship. They're going somewhere. Either they're going to Maple Leaf, they're going to AEW, or they're going to WWE. If they got a working relationship, a long-standing relationship with WWE, or whatever the case may be, it's happening. Jordan Grace was number one. Like anybody that has Jordan Grace, that had Jordan Grace showed up to Royal Rumble twice, you know full well they were highly invested in somebody like that. I would be highly invested in somebody like Jordan Grace. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? So I do feel like TNA is really clearing the space, if you will. I feel like they are anybody that has some sort of opposition in regards to the company's trajectory on what they want to do as far as TNA is concerned, minus NXT or WWE, their working relationship or whatever, they moved them out the way. So I can only guess that TNA is looking to sell to WWE, or WWE is looking to acquire TNA. And honestly, that's not good for anybody. I do not want to see that. I don't think any pro wrestling fan wants to see that. But pro wrestling fans as in a totality, even the talent within TNA, are very confused, more shocked than anything. So just like the paragraph said, the tied for the most shocking is the departure of TNA Hall of Famer Gail Kim. So where do we go from here, TNA? To be completely honest with you, like I don't watch TNA every week. I don't watch Ring of Honor every week. I do know the talent that's on TNA. I do know the talent that's on Ring of Honor. I do know about that. But the only two shows, as far as capacity is concerned, is AEW and WWE, considering the other things that I have going on as far as like covering comic book content, covering video game content, and everything else in between. But still, this Gail Kim thing is trash. It's trash. But you got Tessa Blanchard racist ass on TNA. I'm done. And I feel like a lot of other wrestling fans are done with this company, considering the fact what they did to somebody like that. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, how can we trust you? We can't.